questions to the Prime Minister? Mr. Danny Kinahan.
Question 1, please, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I know the whole House will join me in congratulating Andy Murray, Heather Watson, Jordan Wiley, Gordon Reid and Alfie Hewitt on their stunning success at Wimbledon. Mr. Speaker, this morning I had meetings with ministerial colleagues and others. Other than one meeting this afternoon with Her Majesty the Queen, the diary for the rest of my day is remarkably light.
Danny Kinahan.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, and may I echo the Prime Minister's congratulations to Andrew Murray and all the other winners. But may we thank the Prime Minister for all his hard work and his leadership, and particularly his commitment to the Union and to Northern Ireland, visiting it often and swimming in Lough Erne, and maybe he'd like to come and swim in Lough Neagh. We look forward, the Ulster Unionist Party, to working with the next Prime Minister. And I'm told that there are lots of leadership roles out there at the moment. There's the England football team. There's Top Gear. There's even across the big pond a role that needs filling. But if I can go to my pet subject, Brexit really threatens. Thank you. Brexit really threatens the Union. Would the Prime Minister work with his successors to ensure that we have somebody that is going to pull together all the countries of the Union and the overseas territories and make it all so that we all work and thrive together?
Well, first of all, let me thank the honourable gentleman for his kind remarks and fascinating suggestions for future jobs. I think most of which sound even harder than this one, but so I think I'll pass. Look, I do believe Northern Ireland is stronger than it was 6 years ago, 58,000 more people in work, the full devolution of justice and home affairs delivered under this government, the Saville report published, and record inward investment in creating jobs in Northern Ireland. I care passionately about our United Kingdom, as I know he does and all of us do in this House. We do need to make sure that as we leave the European Union, we work out how to keep the benefits of the common travel area. Hard work is being done now with civil servants in Northern Ireland, in Whitehall, but also in the Republic of Ireland, and that work needs to quicken. The pace needs to quicken.
Jacques Lepresti.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And I'd like to also pay tribute to my honourable friend and all the hard work he's done leading this great country for the last few years. Now, my honourable friend's lasting legacy will include supporting the Kurds, whose Peshmerga are bravely fighting Daesh in all our interests. Now, having visited the Peshmerga on the front line, I know that our airstrikes, weapons and training are crucial, but Peshmerga injuries could be reduced with additional equipment like body armour, respirators and frontline medical facilities, and we could possibly provide some beds in our specialist hospital in Birmingham to the most seriously injured. Does my honourable friend agree that this is a relatively small investment that would make a huge difference to our allies in our common fight to defeat the evil of terrorism?
Well, let me say to my honourable friend, first of all, thank you for his kind remarks. But also, he's absolutely right that the Kurds are incredibly brave fighters and are doing valuable work against Daesh in Iraq and Syria. I'll look carefully at his suggestion of using the Birmingham Hospital. The Queen Elizabeth Hospital has excellent facilities for battlefield casualties. Our army is already providing medical instruction to the Peshmerga to help them deal with these situations, but we will look and see if more can be done. But let's be frank, the strategy is working. Daesh is on the back foot. It's lost 45% of the territory it once held in Iraq. Its finances have been hit. More than 25,000 Daesh fighters have now been killed. Desertion has increased, and the flow of foreign fighters has fallen by 90%. I've always said this will take a long time to work in Iraq and Syria, but we must stick at it and we must stay the course.
Jeremy Corbyn.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Could I start by joining the Prime Minister in paying tribute to the British winners at Wimbledon, Andy Murray, Heather Watson, Jordana Wiley, Alfie Hewitt and Gordon Reid. And also, I think it would be nice if we congratulated Serena Williams on her fantastic achievement as well. Mr. Speaker, it's only right that after 6 years as Prime Minister, we thank the Right Honourable Member for Witney for his service. I've often disagreed with him, but there are some of his achievements I really want to welcome and pay recognition to today. One is helping to secure the release of Shakar Amir from Guantanamo Bay and legislating to achieve equal marriage within our society. And I'm sure he would like to acknowledge that it was Labour votes that helped him to get it through on that occasion. But would he also, perhaps for a moment, express some concern at the way that homelessness has risen for the past 6 years and looks like it's going to continue to rise in this country?
Well, first of all, let me thank him for his kind remarks. I'll join him in paying tribute to Serena Williams, who's now, I think, knocked Steffi Graf's amazing record of 22 Grand Slams. She's overtaken that. Can I thank him for what he said about Shakar Amir? That was a case that this government raised again and again with the US government, and we're pleased that it's been resolved. I'd also thank him for what he said about equal marriage. There are 30,000 gay people in our country who in the last 6 years have been able to get married, and I think that is real progress. I'll never forget the day, actually, in number 10, when one of the people who works very close to the front door said to me, I'm not that interested in politics, Mr. Cameron, but because of something your lot have done, I'm able to marry the person I've loved all my life this weekend. And that was, there are many amazing moments in this job, but that actually was one of my favourites. As for homelessness, it is still 10% below the peak that we saw under Labour, but the key is building more homes. We have built 700,000 homes since I became Prime Minister, but now we need to quicken the pace on that. But the key to building more homes is, yes, programmes like Help to Buy, yes, the reforms to the planning system, but the absolute key is a strong economy.
Jeremy Corbyn.
Mr. Speaker, I've been listening carefully to what the Home Secretary's been saying over the last few days, and she said it's harder than ever for young people to buy their first house. So does the Prime Minister think this is because of record-low house building, or his government's apparent belief that £450,000 is an affordable starter home?
Well, first of all, let me say at the dispatch box how warmly I congratulate the Home Secretary on becoming leader of the Conservative Party. And when it comes to women Prime Ministers, I'm very pleased to be able to say pretty soon it's going to be 2-0. And not a pink bus in sight, Mr. Speaker. Now, on the issue of housing and homelessness, as I said, 700,000 homes have been delivered. He asks about this issue of affordability, which is absolutely key. When I became Prime Minister, because of what had happened to the mortgage market, a first-time buyer often needed to have as much as £30,000 to put a deposit down. Because of the combination of Help to Buy and shared ownership, some people are actually able to get on the housing ladder now with a deposit of as little as £2,000. And with the low mortgage rates as well, and the new houses we're building, we're making good progress.
Jeremy Corbyn.
Mr. Speaker, the malaise seems a little deeper still. The Home Secretary said, so that it really, talking of the economy, she said, so that it really does work for everyone, because it's apparent to anyone in touch with the real world that people do not feel our economy works that way. Isn't she right that too many people in too many places in Britain feel their economy has been destroyed in towns they're in because the industries have gone, there are levels of high unemployment or underemployment and a deep sense of malaise? Don't we all need to address that question?
Well, if we're going to talk about the economic record, let's get the facts straight. We've cut the deficit by 2/3. There are 2.5 million more people in work in our country. There's almost 1 million more businesses. 2.9 million apprenticeships have been trained under this government. And when it comes to poverty, 300,000 fewer people in relative poverty, 100,000 fewer children in relative poverty. And to be accused of sloth in delivery by the right honourable gentleman, let's just take the last week. We both have been having these leadership elections. We got on with it. We've had resignation, nomination, competition and coronation. They haven't even decided what the rules are yet. If they ever got into power, it'd take them about a year to work out who would sit where.
Jeremy Corbyn.
Democracy is an exciting and splendid thing, and I'm enjoying every moment of it. Secretary, Mr. Speaker, talking of the economy, the Home Secretary again, she said, many people find themselves exploited by unscrupulous bosses. I can't imagine who she's referring to. Discussions with the Home Secretary, could he enlighten us as to whether or not there is any proposal to take on Agency Britain by banning zero-hours contracts, clamping down on umbrella companies, repealing the Trade Union Act, or preferably all three?
Well, he's right that democracy is a splendid thing. I have to agree with him about that. Let me answer very directly on exploitation in the workplace. It's this government that, for the first time, has introduced a national living wage. That is a huge change. It's this government that has massively increased the power of the Gangmasters Licensing Authority. There are record fines for businesses that don't pay the minimum wage, and much more policing and prosecutions taking place. All of those things have changed under this government. And as for zero-hours contracts, they account for less than 1 in 40 people in work. 60% of people on zero-hours contracts do not want to work more hours, and it was this government that did something the Labour Party never did, which was to ban exclusive zero-hours contracts. 13 years of Labour, but it took a coalition Conservative government to do it. Let me say something to him about the democratic process of leadership elections, because I did say a couple of weeks ago that I thought it was... I have to say I'm beginning to admire his tenacity. He is reminding me of the Black Knight in Monty Python's Holy Grail. He's been kicked so many times, but he says, keep going, it's only a flesh wound. I admire that.
Mr. Speaker, I would like the Prime Minister to address another issue that the House voted on last week. And I've got a question from Nina, who said... No, hang on. Yeah. It's a question from somebody who deserves an answer. And she says, I would like to know if there is any possibility that a European Union citizen who has lived in Britain for 30 years can have their right of permanent residence revoked or deported depending on the Brexit negotiations. There has been no clear answer to this question. It is one that worries a very large number of people, and it would be good if in his last question time the Prime Minister could at least offer some assurance to those people.
Let me reassure Nina, there's absolutely no chance of that happening to someone in those circumstances. We are working hard to do what we want, which is to give a guarantee to EU citizens that they will have their rights respected, all those who have come to this country. The only circumstance I could ever envisage a future government trying to undo that guarantee would be if British citizens in other European countries didn't have their rights respected. So I think it is important to have reciprocity. But the new Prime Minister will be working to give that guarantee as fast as we can. I'm glad he mentions emails, because actually I've got an email as well. Now, I got this, I'm not making this up, I promise. I got this on the 16th of September 2015 from someone called Judith, and she said this: please, please keep dignity and not triumphalism during the first PMQs today with Jeremy Corbyn. And she gave this reason. She said, because Tom Watson, who may oust Jeremy Corbyn, is a very different kettle of fish. He's experienced, organised and far more dangerous in the long term. She goes on, so sensible, sober, polite answers to Mr Corbyn, let him create his own party disunity. After this is over, I've got to find Judith and find out what on earth happens next.
Jeremy Corbyn!
Mr Speaker, I've had the pleasure of asking the Prime Minister 179 questions. And thank you. Well, there are plenty more to come to his successor. Don't worry about that. But before I ask him the last question, could I just put it on record and wish him well as he leaves this office, and also to wish his family well, Samantha and their children, because I think we should all recognise that whilst many of us really do enjoy our jobs and our political life, it's the loved ones nearest to us and our families that actually make enormous sacrifices that we may be able to do this. So I'd also like him to pass on my thanks to his mum for her advice about ties in suits and songs. It's extremely kind of her, and I'd be grateful if he'd pass that on to her personally. And I'm reflecting on the lesson that she offered. But I've got one rumour that I want him to deal with. There's a rumour going round that his departure has been carefully choreographed so he can slip seamlessly into the vacancy created this morning on Strictly by Len Goodman's departure. Is that his next career?
I don't really have a passe double, so no, I can promise that is not the case. Let me say to him, first of all, thank you for the kind remarks and the good wishes to my amazing wife Samantha and my lovely children who are all watching from the gallery today. He's absolutely right. The pressure is often bears hardest on those we love around us in these jobs, and let me send my best wishes to his family as well. I've done a bit of research, Mr. Speaker. I have addressed 5,500 questions from this dispatch box. I'll leave it for others to work out how many I've answered. Because of your belief in letting everyone have their say, I think I've done a record of 92 hours of statements from this dispatch box, as well as some very enjoyable liaison committee appearances and other things. I will certainly send his good wishes back to my mother. He seems to have taken her advice and is looking absolutely splendid today. But it gives me the opportunity to put a rumour to rest as well, even more serious than the Strictly Come Dancing one. And he'll appreciate this because El Gato, his cat, is particularly famous. And the rumour that somehow I don't love Larry. I do. And I have photographic evidence to prove it. Sadly, I can't take Larry with me. He belongs to the house and the staff love him very much, as do I.